Well, I've just had a breakthrough, and I think I've solved the problem. Now I have to figure out the proper way to fix it. I have a couple of ideas. This is a stitch length chart that I created. What I was doing with this chart was putting an inch of width, so beginning directly on the line and continuing on, and you can see that every single sixth stitch was coming in too early by different varying amounts, and that all depended on the eccentric hinge screw position. Here I was making note of the amount of gap in the feed dog from the end of the throat plate. In other words, how much room was showing up at the furthest most position of the feed dog as it traveled this direction, right? I also began notating the distance that the bearing was taking underneath the machine. This fork here moves back and forth. I was documenting how close that bearing is from the end of that fork. And I noticed that about the 45-degree angle mark facing this way was one of the most optimal positions, but I still was not able to get a full 6 inches. And I was giving this a lot of thought, and after talking with Oklahoma Bridges and also looking at another person's video about how he adjusted the feed cam to be able to deal with heavy amounts of leather, like heavy thicknesses underneath the foot.
The feed dogs did not finish the movement before the needle hit. The timing of the feed dogs is controlled by the mechanism you see here. So now you can see that I turn this piece of metal with eccentrics on a bit forward.
Remembering what was said in the other sewing machine adjustment videos for the feed dog timing,
I want my feeder to be flushed.
It's not flush yet. I'm still experimenting, but it's a lot closer. In order to do that, I had to move the feed cam screw off of the mark. And it would be closer if I lowered the feed dog down by a fraction of an inch. And here's what I found using my little stitching gauge that I created. It's not perfect, but it's there. So yeah, the feed dog timing and how it interacts with the needle definitely has an effect on your stitch length calibration. No modifications needed, no Dremels required. That's not in the adjuster's manual. I just had to kind of figure this out through logical deduction. So, how am I going to fix it? I think I have two options. I either leave it this way. I don't want to do that because this is cone and cup shaped, so this is meant to be in there, and it's kept in there probably to make sure that it doesn't start sliding around. I would rather not do that. There is another possibility that I'm suspecting. I'm wondering if sometime during this machine's life, the bobbin timing needed to be adjusted, and that was done, but it was done in a way that ended up throwing off the timing from the feed dog. In other words, I'm thinking perhaps the feed dog timing and this cam being not in the right place is not the actual problem. There might be a way to adjust the needle and bobbin timing, turning some kind of screw along the shaft and this undershaft here to keep those in sync with each other, but also in sync with the feed dog timing. Everything needs to be in sync with each other, because why would they have engineered it otherwise, right? So I'm going to talk to Oklahoma Bridges and post a second video, and I'm probably going to post a third video after this, because this is suddenly turning into a 3-part series about adjusting the the feed dog timing on a Singer 201.